one can save me now.
Here's Deva Mahal, direct from Wellington, to tell us about her brand new single, Run Me Through, and about her new EP and tour happening on November 4th. So I haven't heard the EP yet. I've only heard like the one song, so I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of it. So let's talk about the song that I do know first, Run Me Through. What can you tell me about that?
No one can save me now. Got my head in the clouds and I'm spinning high. I was bulletproof till you shot me down. Now you've run me through, baby.
Okay, so I recorded it in my bedroom in this very room that you're looking at.
Oh, cool.
And that includes the horns, the backing vocals, lead vocals. And then I did track some keys in somebody else's bedroom. And then
Right.
Mike tracked all the drums and guitars in his own spaces. So
It's amazing what you can do in your bedroom these days. How'd you get everybody in there?
Yes. I don't know. Yeah. We got creative,
Right. Very
So-
cool. And how long ago did this all take place? When did you start putting it together?
So I think that I started working on this song in the spring of 2022, like winter, I guess. Southern Hemisphere was
Yep.
like a fall, maybe. I guess, yeah.
That was pretty much all of the seasons there, except for one.
I get confused because
Me too.
being
I
in
just
both North and South America, I'm like, I
Yep,
had to,
yep.
like, double
Yeah, I just
check.
came back from the States. I was in Nashville for the Americana Fest, so I'm
cool.
still kind of in the
Did
northern.
you see Tammy?
I did. Yes, she was the final act on the final night, and she was awesome, of course. So yeah.
She's
And I think your dad was part of it as well, but I didn't get to see him. So
Mm.
yeah, so yeah, there was like 300 different artists performing, so it was tough to catch them all.
Yeah, those festivals are kind of hard to get everybody.
But it was fun. So there you go. Have you been to Nashville?
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah, that was my first time, so I was very
Yeah,
excited.
I was in Nashville. I found it I think the scenery is really beautiful, but I didn't really feel super connected to the city myself.
Right.
But like the first time I really went there, I was really just rehearsing for a tour, so I didn't really see much.
Right.
And then the second time I was there, I kind of like went down to the Strip, and I was like, ooh. The Strip anywhere is like never where.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, yeah, but we did have fun. So there you go. So
That's cool.
you didn't tell me anything about the song itself. Run me through. What?
My powers of evasion. No, I'm just
Nice
kidding.
one.
So yeah, no, the song, I basically got like Michael Howell had put together like a rough sketch. It was kind of like a linear, just like vibe that he had put together. And I
Right.
was like, ooh, Chris, what if we basically Frankensteined his like one track and cut it up, and we were like, and I was like, this is gonna be the hook, this is gonna be the verse, so we like rearranged the entire thing and then added a bunch of elements to it. So we added, I enlisted Louisa Williamson to arrange the horns for it. I
Right.
did all the vocal arranging.
Right.
I spent a lot of time like building and arranging the backing vocals because I wanted it to be very conversational.
Uh-huh.
So, and also I just love backing vocals so much. I think
Right.
they're like, especially when you're thinking about being inspired by classic music, like all of those classic 1940s to like all the way to through the 2000s, like all the
Yep.
great R&B tracks have killer backing vocal arrangements.
Sure.
No, that was really prominent and important for me, and it just kind of sat down, and the lyrics really came out naturally. Also, it doesn't hurt that it was like based on real experience.
Ah, okay.
So, the subject matter is like, it was pretty present, I guess.
Right.
So it was easy to write. I write from experience a lot.
Right. All right.
You know,
Now you mentioned Chris, and that's Chris Withy. Is that how you pronounce it?
really.
Withy. And Michael Howell is the other gentleman who you work with. So how do the
Mhm.
three of you work together? Why do you work together? Who does what?
So we worked together really because Chris knew Mikey, and he was like, "Oh, I've been working and like hanging out, talking with this guy, Mikey. He's a good friend of mine. What do you think of this track that he sent me?" And that's how
Right?
that came about. And then Chris and I met at a show in Wellington. He was playing with this guy, Jack Page. And so I was down there at Moon and he introduced himself to me. And I was like, cool. And then we didn't really see each other for ages after that. And then he was working with something with my sister. And I was like, oh sweet, I should like hit him up and see if he's down to like do something. And so then we just started he started coming up to my home studio. And we would just sit and be like, okay, well let's try to make something. You
Okay.
know, no like future, we didn't really have any like plans for the future. We were just like, can we make something together?
Yep.
And we did. It just turns out that we were really, he's a great engineer. Like
Uh-huh.
my production expertise is more in studio recording. So I
Right.
had started like with Logic and I was like working on building beats and I have my little like
Ah.
nano Korg
Yep.
and just like, you know, I've got my little mic throne and I bought a audio interface. So I just started like teaching myself how to do the basics and then Chris came through and he's really such a whiz at being an engineer. It also makes a lot of space for me to engineer as well. Like there's no
Oh,
like
cool. Yep.
weird
Nobody's
kind of male ego issues going
right.
on.
Right.
To sit down and he's super supportive. So yeah, we'll just like track and we run everything by each other. So we sit
Gotcha.
down and we do it all together. So even if he's engineering, we sit down and we decide on what we're doing through
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
So every facet of the track we've touched together as producers. And Michael did all the guitar production. He wrote all the guitar parts and like tracked all of that himself. So we
Yep.
just kind of went from bedroom to bedroom.
Cool.
Really.
Cool.
Yeah.
So when you're doing the live shows, are they in the band? What's the show going to be
So they are
comprised of?
not in the band.
Okay.
Mike is in a band called Ski Law. So
Okay.
he's like not like readily available. And plus I already have a guitar player that I play with called Jules. And Chris is in Christchurch, so it was just kind of hard to get like
Yep. Yep.
several. It would have meant that I would have been flying three different people from different cities to play for one band for one tour. So I instead have chosen to work with a Wellington bass player.
Oh, cool. All right. And tell folks what they can kind of expect from the shows.
Okay. So this show, well, I was actually just talking about the stage plot. Like I want it to have like a real classic 60s and 70s R&B feel, even down to the staging.
Oh, cool.
And they're gonna get like a lot of energetic, classic R&B, soul inspired music that's kind of set in the present. So it's gonna definitely be full of like guitars and keys, lots of percussion. There's even some flute in there, lots
All
of
right.
backing vocal movement. So there's going to be a lot of energetic songs, but there's also some really beautiful, passionate, slow burning songs. And it's just going to be a really beautiful evening of music. And I feel like it's really balanced and will kind of leave you feeling full and emotionally open. I
Right.
really want to like want people to leave the show feeling like they've been touched in their heart and they feel empowered and they feel like loved when they leave.
Right.
So that's my goal.
That's your goal. It sounds like a good goal. So you've been through some stuff like everyone has pretty much in the last couple of years, dealing with all sorts of physical and mental things that are, how has that changed you as an artist and how does that translate into what we're going to hear when we hear your music?
Well, I mean, honestly, I don't think there's a thing that I write that isn't touched by my experience and how I felt in that moment of when I was writing that piece. So they're really gonna feel like the depth and the range of, I guess, like, yeah, they're gonna really feel things that come from the heart.
Uh-huh.
I try to write as vulnerably as possible. So I want people to also then feel that themselves and feel safe being vulnerable when they listen to my music. But yeah, like, I don't know. I just write me. You
Yep.
know what I mean? I just write me and I write about what I've experienced and about people I love and things that I don't love. Like, I try to be as straightforward as I can, like with my writing.
Right, right. And I think I read somewhere that a lot of the stuff, political and social, that's happening in the States kind of is on your mind as well. And
Oh,
you're kind of watching
absolutely.
it. Yeah.
5,000, 10,000,000, 1,000%, because it's kind of hard to be like trapped in New Zealand and not be able to like participate through the lockdown.
Right.
It was the safest place to be, but you also felt like, man, I really wanted to be there and like contribute as much as I possibly could. And
What would
so
you be
for
doing
me,
if you could?
well, I mean, I've done a lot of work with like the Resistance Revival Chorus out of New York. I would have been marching.
Right, right.
I would have been demonstrating as much as I humanly possibly could. And so, it's a different kind of trauma, like being here when you're constantly reading every single headline
Yes.
that's like you feel under attack, but it's like cerebral. So it's a kind of fear that you can't quell because your brain doesn't know where to focus for
Hmm.
its energy to feel safe. So there's a lot of that. There was a lot of that experience for me. It's just like you never felt safe in your own head, because you just, yeah, it's just so traumatizing all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some songs in there that are really about that on this EP, and there will also be some songs about like what's been going on in the past couple of years, especially with the George, like everything that kind of moved past Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, and for me that was like hectic. It was like every single day somebody was
Yeah.
dying, and I was
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
I mean, it still is the case. So it's just like, what do? You just gotta create music about it. So
Yep.
on this EP, there's some tracks that are really referencing that, as well as the one that's about to come out next year,
Uh-huh.
Future. So yeah, and I just needed to talk about it, and that's my medium to talk about it.
Sure, sure. Yep, yep, yep. And so the first EP is due out on November 4th, which is several weeks away. I'm assuming that there's going to be another single or something between now and then. What's coming up next?
You would be assuming correctly. I actually had to film another music video
Oh, cool.
really soon, and it should be out just before the tour. So
What's the song? Can you tell me?
I feel like you gotta stay tuned.
Okay, we can stay tuned. I can do that. That's pretty exciting.
I
Yeah.
wanted to drop and do not. I like when I go to a movie. I don't
Yep.
like to watch the trailers. I don't want to watch the review. I just like to go
Fair enough.
to a movie. So I feel like I want you to listen to it and not be told how to feel about it.
All right, we won't tell anybody how to feel about anything here. But so you mentioned there's two EPs, the one that's coming out in November and one next year. Do they have different concepts behind them?
Yeah, they do. They're very different. Like future, the future volume 2 is gonna be way more Afrofuturism and modern contemporary sounds.
Okay.
So sonically, the soundscape is really different. It's going to be using a lot of newer technology, newer instrumentation, like
Yep.
very different vocal arrangements, and yeah,
Okay.
sound
So when
structure.
you're talking about classic stuff, I'm thinking, you're probably referring to Aretha Franklin or Bill Withers or Wilson Pickett or somebody
Yeah,
like that.
absolutely.
So when you're talking
Curtis
about the contemporary
Mayfield,
stuff,
but
I'm an
I'm
old
also
guy.
talking about like Donna Summer. There's like
Right.
some disco vibes on there.
Huh.
Just like what did I say? It's kind of like yeah, they're all like bedroom vibes.
Okay.
They're all like soulful bedroom vibes that you want to either dance to or cry to.
Sounds good. Or
Yeah.
both at the same time sometimes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not
Great.
opposed to that.
That's good.
I'm
And
pretty sure I've done that.
ever on stage? How
Probably.
how wrapped up do you get? I mean, when you're on stage, kind of recreating what you've done on the record, where are you mentally? Or do you just have to kind of go with the flow, or do you have to go somewhere? What are you doing?
Hopefully, I'm like completely gone
Right?
and totally like succumb to the music. That's the goal, to like be in the moment. Hopefully, I'm not like thinking about anything other than like where we're at and how it feels.
Yep.
And hopefully, it feels really good.
Yeah. And do you get much interaction with fans after the shows? Do they want to tell you how they feel?
Yeah, I do actually. And pretty much I get so much beautiful love from the people that write me about my music, and it makes it feel worthwhile doing it, because sometimes it's really hard to rationalize it to yourself.
Sure.
So, because it's hard work being independent. It's not for the faint of heart. So it feels really good when people are like, man, this like
Yep.
got me through some shit,
Right.
and this really made me feel deeply connected to you and to whatever I was dealing with, or even I just wanted to, even if it's as simple as like, this is a vibe.
Hmm.
Even when they send you like a flame emoji, you're like, yes, I'm doing my job. There's some artist, like a local artist, he said, cooking, and then a fire emoji. And I
Yep.
was like, yes, reaching the people. It's not always, but sometimes I get like a full like paragraph, like essay of what a song meant to them, and that just is super touching. But yeah, it's all beautiful when you get those kind of responses, and you know that you're connecting, because then you know that what you're doing is worthwhile.
Cool. So the album's out, or the EP is out on the 4th. I think you're
Mm,
at the Winter Garden here in Auckland on the 5th, so
that's
we'll be able to
correct.
see you up there for that. And
Are you coming?
of course, where else am I going to
All right,
be?
you better be there.
I will be there,
I'll be looking for
guaranteed.
you.
All right, and I can't wait to see what you got coming up next. Now you got me all intrigued.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be good. This one's a good one. This is definitely like more heartfelt.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much for telling me all about it, and good luck with everything.
Thank you. Thanks for taking the time to interview me, and thanks for supporting my music.
My pleasure, believe me.